Welcome back to this new edition of News Today. Without delay, let's explore the headlines first. India hosted third Voice of Global South Summit. A report by BCG and in Diaspora highlights contributions of Indian Americans to US society. Union Minister writes to Union Public Service Commission to cancel lateral entry advertisement. New study assesses suitability of different areas of Banni for sustainable grassland restoration. As per a study, melting permafrost is releasing toxic mercury into the Arctic. RBI issued framework for recognition of self-regulatory organizations in financial markets. In our first news, we are focusing on a significant event that brings together voices from across the globe, the third Voice of Global South Summit, or VOGSS, hosted by India. Let's start by understanding what the Voice of Global South Summit is all about. This summit aims to bring together countries from the Global South to share their perspectives on various issues, all aligned with the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, meaning the world as one family. Now, when we say Global South, we are talking about countries that are often described as developing or less developed. These nations are separated from the richer Global North by what's known as Brand Line. India has taken the lead in hosting this summit, with the first and second editions held in January and November of 2023. So what was special about the third Voice of Global South Summit? The theme this time was an empowered Global South for a sustainable future. It was a virtual meet where 123 countries joined in, though it's important to note that China and Pakistan were not invited. A key highlight was India's proposal for a Global Development Compact or GDC. This comes amid growing concerns about countries burdened with debt in the name of development finance. The compact will focus on essential areas like trade for development, sustainable growth, and technology sharing. To back this, India announced a special fund of $2.5 million to boost trade promotion activities, along with a $1 million trade policy training fund for capacity building. But it's not without its challenges. The Global South faces several issues, such as obsolete global governance and financial institutions, a widening technology divide between the North and South, and persistent threats like terrorism, extremism, and separatism. Moving on to how India is advocating for the Global South, India has been proactive in launching various initiatives. For instance, a social impact fund of $25 million has been set up to accelerate digital public infrastructure in the Global South. Additionally, the Global South Young Diplomat Forum has been launched to promote education and capacity building. A significant moment during India's G20 presidency was the induction of the African Union as a permanent member of the G20. This move is part of India's broader vision to give the Global South a stronger voice on the global stage. And lastly, another vision of Arogya Maitri, India's mission of One World, One Health, aims to ensure health security globally with initiatives like Jan Aushadhi Kendras being set up in African and Pacific Island countries. In conclusion, the third Voice of Global South Summit reaffirms India's commitment to fostering global cooperation and addressing the challenges faced by the Global South. In our next news, we have a fascinating report to discuss, one that highlights the incredible contributions of the Indian American community to US society. The report put together by BCG and in Diaspora sheds light on the significant impact this diaspora has made, despite constituting only about 1.5% of the US population. Let's start with the economic impact. CEOs of Indian origin head 16 Fortune 500 companies. Business leaders like Satya Nadella of Microsoft and Shantanu Narayan of Adobe are making waves in the global business arena. Now moving on to cultural influence, the Indian American community has brought vibrant celebrations like Diwali and Holi to the US, making them widely recognized and celebrated. And it doesn't stop there. Celebrated chefs like Vikas Khanna and wellness experts like Deepak Chopra, who promote practices with Indian roots, are also making a mark. In the realm of innovation, research and development, Indian Americans have left an indelible mark. Remarkably, 13% of US scientific publications have an Indian American as a co-author. Names like Hargobind Khurana, Abhijit Banerjee, and Manjul Bhargav come to mind when we talk about groundbreaking contributions in science and economics. And in government and public services, an Indian American community has made historic strides. Kamala Harris, the first woman vice president of Indian descent, and Bobby Jindal, the first Indian American governor, are prime examples of this progress. Now let's not forget the benefits of these contributions bring back to India. Economically, the US is top source of remittance, contributing to $26 billion out of $113 billion in 2022-23. Since 2000, US companies have invested $63 billion in FDI in India. There's also a brain gain, with about 20% of Indian unicorns having co-founders who have leveraged US higher education. Examples include Rahul Chari of PhonePe and Harsh Jain and Bhavan Seth of Dream11. Politically, the Indian American community plays a crucial role in diplomacy and lobbying. For example, the Indo-US civil nuclear deal wouldn't have been possible without their influence. Not to mention, Indian diaspora members like Geeta Gopinath, Raghuram Rajan, and Soumya Swaminathan are making waves in global institutions. Culturally, Indian soft power is on the rise. Did you know that 1 in 10 Americans practice yoga? And Indian cuisine and Ayurveda are becoming more popular by the day. In the realm of science, Indo-US collaboration is strong, with projects like NISAR and ISET marking significant milestones. To strengthen these ties, India has launched various initiatives for diaspora engagement. The Know India program, Pravasi Bharati Divas, and the Indian Community Welfare Fund are just a few examples. In conclusion, the contributions of Indian Americans to US society are nothing short of remarkable. Next, we are delving into a significant development in Indian bureaucracy. A union minister has written to the Union Public Service Commission or UPSC requesting the cancellation of a lateral entry advertisement. This advertisement was for the recruitment of joint secretaries, directors, and deputy secretaries in various central ministries. Now you might be wondering what exactly is lateral entry. Well, lateral entry refers to the recruitment of individuals from outside the traditional government service cadres, filling mid and senior level positions within government departments. This concept was formally introduced back in 2018 following a recommendation from the Niti Ayog's 3-year action agenda. It's worth noting that Second Administrative Reforms Commission, established in the year 2005, also endorsed this approach. Let's take a closer look at the arguments in favor of lateral entry. Proponents argue that it brings in domain expertise, which is essential for tackling complex challenges in governance and policy implementation. Additionally, lateral entry helps to augment the availability of manpower. Only 442 IS officers working with the centre against the required strength of 1,469 officers. This practice isn't unique to civil services either. Similar lateral recruitment strategies have been successfully implemented in institutions like the Reserve Bank of India. On the flip side, there are arguments against lateral entry as well. Critics point out that it can be challenging to ensure accountability, especially given the short tenure of these positions. Moreover, the lack of field experience, potential deterrence of existing talent, and the absence of clarity regarding reservation policies are all concerns that have been raised. This brings us to a broader discussion on the reforms needed to strengthen our bureaucracy. Some suggest that deputation to the private sector could bring in more domain expertise and competition. Others advocate for institutionalizing goal setting and tracking of each department to ensure better performance. The government's new 360-degree performance appraisal mechanism is another step in this direction. Additionally, setting up public administration universities for both aspiring and serving civil servants could play a crucial role in this reform. In conclusion, while lateral entry aims to bring fresh talent and expertise into the government, it also comes with its own set of challenges. Next, we are diving into a fascinating study that assesses the suitability of different areas within the Banni grasslands for sustainable restoration. The study has taken an in-depth look at the soil characteristics, including nutrients and micronutrients, while also leveraging satellite data. The focus here is on grassland restoration with an emphasis on ecological value as the primary criterion. Now let's break down the findings. The study has characterized the Banni grasslands into 5 distinct zones based on their suitability for restoration. To give you a clearer picture, 36% of the grassland area is classified as highly suitable for restoration, 28% falls under the suitable category, 27% is deemed moderately suitable, 7% of the area is marginally suitable, and 2% is considered not suitable for restoration. What do these categories mean for restoration efforts? Well, the first 2 categories, highly suitable and suitable, represent areas that can restore relatively easily provided there is access to adequate water sources such as through irrigation or rainwater harvesting. On the other hand, the marginally suitable and not suitable zone will require more intensive management practices. These include terracing, fertilization, and protection from water erosion and salt intrusion. Let's take a moment to appreciate the significance of the Banni grasslands themselves. Located in Kutch, Gujarat, this is Asia's largest tropical grassland spanning over 2,600 square kilometers. It's an area rich in biodiversity, home to species like the Banni buffalo, Kankraj cattle, and the Asiatic wild ass. It's also culturally significant, housing more than 20 ethnic semi-nomadic communities such as Maldharis and Jats. But it's not all smooth sailing for the Banni grasslands. They face numerous threats, including excessive pressure from livestock grazing, increased soil salinity, water scarcity, and the invasive spread of Prosopis julifera. Climate change and desertification further complicate the situation. So what's being done to restore grasslands like Banni in India? Well, several initiatives are underway, including India's commitment to achieving land degradation neutrality by 2030, which involves restoring 26 million hectares of degraded land. The introduction of cheetahs in India is also a step towards restoring open forest and savanna grasslands. Additionally, protected areas have been declared across the country, and specific projects like Banni Grassland Restoration Project of 2019 are dedicated to preserving these vital ecosystems. In conclusion, the Banni grasslands hold immense ecological and cultural value, but they are in need of careful management and restoration. Ahead, we'll be discussing an alarming study that reveals how melting permafrost is releasing toxic mercury into the Arctic. This study is based on research conducted on samples from the top 3 meters of permafrost in the Yukon River. After thorough analysis and comparison with satellite data, researchers found that significant amounts of mercury are released when riverbanks erode. But what exactly is permafrost? To put it simply, permafrost refers to any ground that stays frozen at or below 0 degrees Celsius for at least 2 consecutive years. It's made up of soil, rocks and sand all held together by ice. You'll typically find permafrost in regions with high mountains and along Earth's higher latitudes, such as Arctic and Antarctica. Interestingly, even though the ground remains frozen, permafrost regions aren't always covered in snow. Now let's talk about the impact of melting permafrost. As the permafrost thaws, it leads to the decomposition of soil organic carbon stored within it. This process releases greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere, contributing to global warming. But that's not all. Thawing permafrost can also release ancient bacteria and viruses, posing serious health threats to both humans and animals. And as if that wasn't concerning enough, over 5 million people living in the Arctic region face a direct threat from the potential release of mercury due to this melting. There's also the risk of sea level rise, increased erosion, and risks of landslides. Now let's talk and understand about mercury. Mercury is a naturally occurring metal that can be found in air, water, and soil. It's unique because it's the only metal that remains liquid at room temperature. However, exposure to mercury, even in small amounts, can lead to serious health problems. Mercury has both natural sources, such as volcanoes and geothermal springs, and human-made sources, including the burning of coal, hazardous waste, and industrial waste. Health risks associated with mercury exposure include damage to nervous, digestive, and immune systems. One of the most severe outcomes of mercury poisoning is Minamata disease, a neurological condition. In conclusion, the findings of this study are a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our planet's ecosystems and the far-reaching impacts of climate change. Next, we are talking about an important development from the Reserve Bank of India, or RBI. The RBI has just issued a framework for the recognition of self-regulatory organizations, or SROs, in financial markets. So why is this framework significant? Well, as regulated entities such as financial institutions and organizations continue to grow in both number and size, there's been a noticeable lack of industry standards for self-regulation. To tackle this, instead of putting extra pressure on regulators like RBI and SEBI, the new framework encourages industry members to take on the responsibility of self-regulation. Now let's dive a bit deeper into what this means. SROs are entities that can develop, promote, and enforce industry standards and best practices. This step is seen as a way to enhance self-regulation within financial markets, ultimately making the industry more robust and reliable. Moving on to the framework itself, what are the key points? To start, eligibility. An SRO must be set up as a not-for-profit company registered under Section 8 of the Companies Act 2013. Additionally, the applicant must have a minimum net worth of Rs 10 crore. These are important criteria to ensure that only well-established and financially sound entities take on this crucial role. Now on to responsibilities. An SRO must regularly inform the RBI about developments in its sectors, carry out any tasks assigned by the RBI, and submit an annual report to the RBI. These responsibilities ensure that SRO remains accountable and transparent in its operations. But who exactly are these regulated entities, or REs, that we are talking about? REs refer to financial institutions and organizations that operate within the framework of specific regulations set by regulatory authorities. Their role is critical. They maintain financial stability, ensure compliance with the regulations, conduct due diligence, and implement measures to prevent financial crimes like money laundering and fraud. Some examples of REs include insurance repositories under the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, or IRDA, and scheduled commercial banks under the RBI. These entities play a vital role in the functioning of our financial markets. In conclusion, the RBI's framework for recognizing SROs is a step towards fostering greater self-regulation in financial markets. Today's place in the news brings us to Kuwait, with its capital Kuwait City. Recently, the External Affairs Minister of India called the Kuwaiti Prime Minister to discuss bilateral ties. Let's dive into its political features. It is a country in Arabian Peninsula at northwest corner of Persian Gulf. Its bordering nations are Iraq in the north and west, Saudi Arabia in the south and west. It shares its maritime border with Iran in the east. Kuwait is a member of Gulf Cooperation Council, Arab League, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and OPEC. Geographically, it has a hyper-arid desert climate, highly variable with recurrent extremes. It is largely a desert, except Al Jahra Oasis at western end of Kuwait Bay. Major rivers of country include Wadi Al Batin, Khor Bubiyan, and Khor Al Sabaya. Also, it has 6% of the world's proven oil reserves. As we wrap up today's main news, let's take a moment for some quick updates. Defense Research and Development Organization has handed over the authority holding sealed particulars of Nippon munition to DGQA. Nippon is a soft target munition designed and developed by the Armament Research and Development Establishment. Recently, scientists highlighted a case of zoopharmacognosy in Sumatran orangutans. Orangutan treated a wound on his body by using local plant Fibruria tinctoria. Zoopharmacognosy is a process by which wild animals use medicinal plants for treatment of diseases and protection from parasites. The Agricultural and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority facilitated the export of India's first ready-to-drink fig juice made from Purandar figs to Poland. Purandar figs was awarded the GI tag in 2016. The Union Minister of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying recently reviewed measures taken towards achieving the goal of FMD Mukt Bharat by 2030. FMD, or foot and mouth disease, is a highly contagious viral vesicular disease of cloven-hoofed animals such as cattle, buffaloes, sheep, goats, and pigs. Food Safety and Standards Authority of India launched an innovative project to tackle growing concern of microplastic contamination in food. This project is named as Micro and Nanoplastics as Emerging Food Contaminants, establishing validated methodologies and understanding prevalence in different food matrices. Media reports have raised concerns about lack of guardrails in recently launched two AI models, Group 2 and Group 2 Mini by Elon Musk's XAI. AI guardrails are frameworks and mechanisms designed to ensure ethical, legal and technical compliance with AI systems. Atal Innovation Mission, in collaboration with CSIRO Australia, is inviting applications from startups and MSMEs for the Climate Smart Agritech Cohort of the India-Australia RISE Accelerator. RISE Accelerator was launched in 2023. The program is designed to aid businesses aiming for international expansion between India and Australia. A recent study, Liquid Water in Martian Mid-Crust, suggests Mars may contain oceans worth of liquid water deep in the rocky outer crust of Mars. The liquid layer is located at 10 to 20 kilometers in the Martian crust. Data from NASA's Mars Insight lander was used. Before we conclude today's bulletin, let's test your knowledge in our segment Test Your Learning. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this edition of News Today. For the quiz solutions and to download the PDF version of News Today, please visit the links provided in the description below.